Welcome to your best bet episode number 171. Going live here. NBA season is coming up, and traditionally we do a pretty big preview show to kind of talk about some odds, storylines, best bets, that kind of thing. We're going to do something like that again tonight. A lot of changes in the NBA, even in the last month. Actually, the most significant changes in the last month in the offseason have happened recently. So we got a lot to talk about there. Also, going to talk about the Ryder Cup off the top. Zach, Johnny, and I did a preview of the Ryder Cup. We did not record a post Ryder Cup, so got to do some Ryder Cup thoughts. Johnny Strouser is here. Johnny, the elephant in the room with you, and I haven't mentioned it, is the Detroit Lions. I've tried not to. I don't want to like jinx it, even talking about it now, but I haven't really said anything to you via text because, like, I just don't want to ruin anything, but also like, holy shit.
That team is a unit, isn't it? I mean, that team, like, just trying to as independently view it as I can. I mean, they are just good on both sides of the ball. They're good on special teams. They're so well coached. Brad Holmes, the GM, makes seemingly all the right moves. It's just like I don't know what to do. I mean, I don't know what to think. If I see a team like this this reminds me of like how well set up like the Kansas City Chiefs are, or pick any good franchise. And I mean, they beat you down with that elite offensive line. I mean, I think they got the second best offensive line behind the Eagles, in the league, and they've got an offensive coordinator who unfortunately is going to be
Um,
somewhere else next year, but he knows Goff's strengths, weaknesses, and they just wear you down though. They don't make the mistakes that I'm so accustomed to watching. Like I have to, luckily having league pass, I have to watch the games a couple other times because I'm like there had to have been mistakes that they made and they're just not doing it. And it's just when they get running backs to go down, like I thought they were going to lose that game in Tampa Bay. Um, all the running backs got hurt. Montgomery went down early, and Craig Reynolds, which is a good dude, but he's just not a very good running back. He was their main guy. Jared Goff throws for like 325 yards or something like that, and they just beat you through the air and through the with the defense. It's just unbelievable. And I'm like, I'm trying not to get like overly excited about it, but how can you not when they're beating teams legitimately, and they've won three good road games. One against the Chiefs at Green Bay, and now at Tampa Bay. So it's exciting stuff.
I do think Ben Johnson is going to be head coach next year. He could be the head coach of my football team next year. I'm eyeing him.
God,
Um, I'm sure the Bears will screw that up in some way if they grab him. But yeah, I'm very impressed by the offenses. I think is it what 15, 16 games in a row where they've scored 20 points, something like that.
I think
That's
so.
that's pretty incredible. The defense is much improved. Hutchinson is awesome. He's so fun to watch. And Goff, I mean, I I think the thought when they got him in the Stafford trade was okay, he's going to be a placeholder for
Yep.
someone else somewhere down the road. But I think he's returned to the guy he was early on with the Rams. When he's protected well, he's very effective and he can run an offense and a system really, really well. And he's been very good. He's been very good. Like the last 16 games, he's had MVP type numbers. Can't even believe saying it, but he's good. Jared Goff is good. And
Yeah.
Dan Campbell is one of the most likable coaches in the NFL, probably up there with Mike McDaniel. And yeah, they are tough right now. I do think they have a schedule loss coming this weekend, but I thought that potentially last weekend. That this is a tough one. Second road game in a row at Baltimore, um, but incredibly impressive by the Lions. So needed to talk about that off the top. Meanwhile, Thursday night games. We're recording this on Thursday night. Got the slog of a game already. Jags, Saints. I always think during the day, like, man, it's gonna be fun. Like, it doesn't matter who's playing. Like, it's football, and even when there's good teams, like, I get excited about the thought during Thursday, like if I'm at work, and then the game starts, and then it's just like, oh, this kind of sucks. What is that? Every freaking Thursday night game is like this.
I've actually wondered that same thing because yeah, you get excited, you're like, oh, football, and then you're like watching the Saints, and you're just like, this isn't great. I don't know. Is it because the guys aren't fully healthy from the week's recovery? Is it the game plans aren't very good? I have a theory though. I have this theory, and I've had it for I don't know 5+ years. Um, Defenses don't like to get embarrassed on national TV, and I think their game plans on nationally televised games, especially short weeks like this, is more simplified, and it's just play as hard as you can because you don't want to get lit up for 38 points in a nationally televised game and then be the butt of the joke until the Sunday game. So I think that I've always thought that, and like when I used to play fantasy football, I didn't mind playing, or I didn't like to play like a ton of offensive players in these night games, these nationally televised games, because I thought the defenses would be just a little bit stronger, and you generally see low scoring games. And I mean, we've seen some just duds even this season here, and this is another one. So I don't know if that's true, but that's just kind of my thing is I think the players have this sense of pride, and I think that's the biggest thing is they just tend to show up, and they don't want to get embarrassed.
Are you buying Herb Street on the NFL period?
Buying them, oh, as a broadcaster,
Yeah.
it feels just like a really big college football game when he's the broadcast. I know Al Michaels, and Al Michaels is elite, and he always has been and everything, but it just feels like it's a really big college football game, like a college football playoff game, or it's the Saturday night game, in the SEC or something like that. But I don't mind him. I've always liked him as a broadcaster, doing color, and I really like him on game day. I've always really liked him. I know he catches a lot of shit being an Ohio State guy who's kind of impartial. So like the Ohio State fans despise him, and that's a lot of college football, and I think that's what kind of makes it neat. But I don't mind it. I mean, I think he's really good. He's really insightful, and he generally tries to be kind of down the middle as much as he can. I think most broadcasters are, but he really kind of sounds that way. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah, it's taken me some getting used to with him and Michaels. I'm just like, oh yeah, I forget every time I turn on Prime, like, oh yeah, Herb Street's here. Um, but yeah, I don't mind it. It's something new. Someone I think is very good that I never thought would be worth a shit at it is Mark Sanchez. I don't mind him. Like
yeah,
he's reasonable, um, and like his analysis is solid. His voice sounds good. There's just a lot of good things to him that I didn't expect, and that's kind of nice. I think Greg Olson, I think he might be the best right now. I know
hmm
Romo was considered the best there, but I think that maybe that's kind of become a little stagnant. But I really like Olson. I think he is interesting. We'll have to see if Brady comes on board at some point. I don't know what's gonna go on there with his future contract with Fox, but anyways, I digress. We did record the Ryder Cup podcast, preview podcast a couple weeks ago. Did not get a chance to record a follow up. Um, so we want to talk about the NBA, but we have to just dig into this for a few minutes. I think the opening question is, what the fuck?
this was my, not in this level, but this was kind of my fear was, you saw the odds months and months ago was USA heavily juiced at like -175. And then it kept shrinking and shrinking and shrinking as that European team appeared to be getting better and better. And then after the Tour Championship, the Euros kept playing in the events, and then it actually became, I think, close to even money there. And usually when I've noticed, especially in like football games, is when sharps buy heavy on that kind of stuff because they can kind of see it, and they bought it down and kind of had an idea that this wasn't going to be the cakewalk here. And if you look at it, I know hindsight is what it is, but if you look at it, like a lot of the stuff that the European team would go on scouting trips, and there was dinners together, and the stuff that we kind of talked about that we weren't sure if it really mattered. It kind of ended up doing it because a lot of the U.S. players didn't do it. Then you hear some guys like Patrick Cantlay, because he wasn't getting paid. Was it Jamie Weir that
Yeah,
tweeted that he
yeah,
wouldn't wear the hat? Whether that was true or not, I don't know. Xander Schauffele, according to his dad, wasn't even like under contract with the PGA of America until just a couple weeks beforehand, and his spot was in doubt. And in the classic way of any United States national sports team failing, it burned to the ground. And it was so disappointing, from getting swept in the opening session on Friday morning. So everybody, it started at 1:30 in the morning. Our dumbasses woke up because we thought, we wanted to root for the United States there. Um, you know, they get swept there, and that was it. They had a couple chances in that second session to make it respectable, lost late as the US traditionally does on foreign soil there, and they just implode. And you see the body language of the European team celebrating every putt. Like Shane Lowry, that dude was a fucking maniac. Every time he'd win a hole, he'd make a 4-footer or something like that. So just something that he makes a million of them in his life, and is going nuts to fire up the crowd. And then you look at guys like you like Schauffele and Cantlay, and those guys just kind of just nothing burgers from them, and that kind of stuff. They that feeds off. Players
mhm,
feed off of that kind of stuff. You look at, like, I'm not a big fan of, like, and I never played organized football, but you know how you got some football players that act crazy and get their guys all fired up and all that kind of stuff. A lot of them do it just because the other players feed off it too. If somebody's body language, if you're looking at one of your better players and their body language sucks, you're going to be like, well, he doesn't care, so I don't care either. And I think they, in a way, got a case of that, and then kind of got desperate as it got later in the matches and everything. But I mean, you could look at it a whole number of reasons, and I'm sure you've got several that you think, but it was fucking disappointing.
yeah. You hit on a lot of them, but to kind of cycle back from where you started with Cantley and Xander, um, it's just disappointing to hear guys say that, if that's the case, and I'm confident it is. Michael Bamberger from the Fire Pit Collective, he had a story a couple weeks after that had it was sourced. I know sources say, but like someone heard Cantley refer to a PGA of America member, and Cantley mentioned how much he was getting paid just to be there and work there, and he said he'll wear a hat when he gets paid as much as that guy. I mean, it's shit like that. I'm like, dude, like the disappointing part on the and this came up what in the 99 Ryder Cup, before the 99 Ryder
Yes,
Cup, with
David Duval.
Duvall. I think even Mark O'Mara of all people mentioned it. It's like, really? Um, it's like, if these guys see it in a different lens, like if I go out there and I'm a star at the Ryder Cup, do you know how many potential you know lucrative deals are on the table for you to make money off of the Ryder Cup itself? I mean, if you think about how big it is, like Max Homa, pretty much the starring role of the U.S. team. Don't you think he made himself money by what he did at the Ryder Cup, and his personality and everything that goes in that with that? There's got to be something that came from that, but the guys don't see it that way. Um, the whole thing is disappointing. Xander's dad it's starting to feel a little bit like LeVar Ball, like he's this is a great comparison, right? Like, what the fuck is he gonna say now?
Yes.
um, but I never thought of it much as far as like what's additive for the Euro team, especially when it's a away game for the US. for those guys being so together and the chemistry. And we thought this team was different. We thought we have chemistry. We got all these young guys, and there's no Phil and Tiger um, remaining kind of negativity to this team. It's a brand new set of guys. They grew up together, play a lot of junior golf. They seem to be, most of them are friends. Criticism during the captain's picks on it being too much of a buddy system, and we were like, that's actually what we want. That's great. That's what the European team has been doing for years, but there's still something missing. Is it not authentic? Like, it feels authentic for the European team. It still doesn't feel real for the U.S. team. Um, I mean, I guess you could argue Whistling Straits, it felt pretty real, but they just played fucking great golf too. And it still feels like the Euro team is together, even when they're getting their ass kicked. And nothing I think symbolized that more when it was on the first tee. And I can't remember if it was Friday or Saturday, but it was Xander and Cantley going against Hatton and Rahm. And I know you know what I'm going to say, but
That
Rahm,
picture.
Rahm had his arm around Hatton, and they're all, it's tight knit and they're buddies. And then Xander and Cantlay just look fucking miserable, like they're looking down, like it really symbolized the whole week for me. Um, by the way, the X follow, not Twitter, X art, or it's like sports with art, or I don't know the
Art with
Twitter handle.
sports.
Art,
Art, but
yeah,
make it sport.
art
Or
but make it sports. Thank you.
make it
Yes.
sports. So good.
That's such an amazing follow. They had some really good ones throughout the week, and that was, of course, one photo that they did that with. But um, it just feels like that. Like Shane Lowry, you mentioned, like he didn't play great, but like his presence felt like it mattered. Like his emotional presence felt like it mattered, and it just doesn't feel like that with the U.S. guys that maybe don't have a great week. Like Sam Burns certainly didn't play well, but like he didn't add anything to the team. It felt like that they needed to get over the top in certain matches. Brooks didn't play well. I didn't see him out there rooting other guys on when he wasn't playing, and you always see that with the Euro guys, and I do think that matters. I don't know. I mean, you could argue since the task force was formed after the 2014 Ryder Cup that we haven't lost a home game, but we haven't been close in the two road games in 2018 or 2023. And I'm not that optimistic we're going to be any closer in 2027 when we have to go win over there. I'm very confident we'll win at Bethpage in 2 years, but man, I don't know. I don't see a path right now to win on the road. I will not be fooled in 4 years. I just won't be. Let's get to the captains. Luke Donald just seemed to kill it, and everything you read and you hear, man, our guy struggled. Zach Johnson, I thought he was terrible. I don't know what you thought.
He was third worst that I can remember of my lifetime. Not the worst, but the third worst of the United States captains that I can remember. Hal Sutton and Tom Watson would be the other two.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it turned out Jordan Spieth didn't have any golf game coming in, but he really should have thrown out his two, Captain Americas and JT and Jordan, and just kind of tried to set a tone. They need to set kind of an attitude in those opening matches, and you just got to establish what your identity is. We're going to talk about the NBA. That's a lot of what you do in basketball or football. We talked about the Lions. You establish in an event, you establish what the identity is, and sitting those two guys was just, I think, a colossal failure. They probably would have lost, just based on how everybody played. But I think you got to throw these guys out there, because that's kind of your trusted guys that can go out there and grind out, and maybe get you a half point, maybe get you a point. But yeah, I mean, throwing, we don't want to, blast on Sam Burns here, but he was downright
I love Sam Burns.
atrocious
He was not good
with Scotty, and I know that's why you picked him with Scott. You paired him with Scotty, but not putting him with with Brooks. a little bit, someone a little bit more battle tested and everything like that. I think there was just a lot of bad decisions, and it didn't really work throughout the whole week, and it just was, I don't know, it just one of those things that I think with Zach, that's just kind of, I think that kind of was the way the week went. It kind of just fit his personality, kind of an easygoing, passive kind of guy. And, they didn't play well in the first session. They played pretty good in the afternoon on Friday. And then, you need to rally the guys, and it just wasn't there. So I was quite disappointed. He'll make an okay an assistant captain in the next, 10 Ryder Cups or whatever they pick him for. But eject that guy into the sun if you ever consider giving him another Ryder Cup captaincy.
No, his pressers were brutal. He couldn't form a sentence at times, and then when he did respond, he didn't. He gave you nothing, gave you absolutely nothing. I thought he added zero to the team. Again, I just it was disappointing. Just one more, piece of the puzzle that was disappointing. There weren't really many bright spots at all. Max was unbelievable. That was clearly a bright spot. Um, and there really wasn't a lot beyond that.
No.
Scotty wasn't good. I mean, he played well at times. I think he played well in the singles match on Sunday in the leadoff spot against Rom. But Spieth was an absolute disaster. Like unplayable, really. JT, he battled. I think he got a point and a half, but he really didn't play well either. I mean, we can talk about the emotional aspect and the chemistry and the camaraderie, but also they just didn't play well. Um, they got to figure out this foursomes thing. You cannot just. I mean, it's disappointing. Like you mentioned, it's over really before it even gets going. When you're down 4-0 for the first session, it's almost an insurmountable deficit in a road game like that. But there, I say all this, and then on the other hand, I'm like, man, there were so many matches that were decided on the 18th hole where it looked like we were going to win and they got to have, or it looked like we were going to have and they got to win. I mean, I could think of 5 or 6, especially Friday afternoon, where
Mm-hmm.
there was a major swing. So I say all that, but also like I think this was closer than 16 and a half and 11 and a half. It really was. And even there's even moments on Sunday where we were texting like there's
You're
like
trying to
20
find a
minutes.
path.
There's like 20 minutes where we're like, holy shit, like there's a path right here and we're gonna get down these last 2 matches, it felt like. But it shouldn't ever come to that, and I don't, I want to get to a Sunday where I don't have to be forging a road for them to come back from uh a huge deficit to make history. I just, I think we thought if they were within 9-7, something like that going into Sunday, that they were going to be fine and they'd be able to win. But man, tough, just real tough. Looking forward to 25. Are we looking at Tiger being the captain at Bethpage? I mean,
I I think
I've seen some stuff out there about Stu Sink. Um, I just don't know about that.
not yet. I think you got to ask Tiger if he's healthy and wants to commit to the 2 years, and you ask him for Bethpage, and then where are they going in 27? I can't remember where they're going in
It's a,
Europe.
it's in Ireland. I know that. I can't remember the
Oh, it's
course.
Adair Manor.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
so I think you ask Tiger. And I think that's what they're waiting on at this point. I think they're just trying to get a commitment from Tiger, and I think you give him two, and then Sync would be the United States in 2029. I think that's just you. I think you got to give Tiger, because we've talked about it. Originally, it was supposed to be Mickelson at Bethpage, which would have been perfect. Tiger at Adair Manor, and then then you go from there. But give the man two if he wants them. He may not want to. He may not want to do two, because he did President's Cup. He did the one in Australia, and I think they offered to the United States one. And I obviously with his other projects and everything like that he didn't. But hopefully he will commit to it, because I think you got to have him for a road game, because I think you got to look at each individual guy. And I don't know if there's any solution to winning these games, but you've got to pull each guy into a room and say, look, man, if you don't want to be here, that's fine. You don't have to be here. You can we could fake injury or we can, whatever. But I think if anybody on that team, let's say he's the captain in Ireland, if anybody on that team flies over there and can't give 100%, no matter how much they're not getting paid or how much the PGA of America is getting paid or whatever, and cannot give Tiger Woods, 100% effort and passion and everything that's needed, then they're a lost cause. So I think they gotta redirect the thinking as far as how this goes. And unfortunately, either you got to pay the guys to be there, or you've got to just tell them, look, man, don't show up. There's they can get other guys like Max Homa who just said, give me every single match. You don't have to pay me. I'll play as hard as I can and everything like that. And I believe a lot of them did that, but it's just the optics and everything like that. And I think that's it. Is they've got to just they got to change it. It's got to be different.
I think before, when we were recording the preview pod, I think we were talking about who are the guys on the U.S. team past JT that what you would say gives you emotional lift, who are the heart of the team, and we couldn't really name anyone. Really couldn't. I mean, we kind of argued Spieth, but Spieth's been a little hit and miss, and he's really since 2014 or 16 Ryder Cup. But I think Max has stepped up, and we're like, man, that guy truly gives a shit, and he wants it. Love to see it. And JT's right there too. Maybe golf wasn't there, but we can always trust that he's going to be all in on it. And
Yeah,
past that, I just don't know. I just don't know where if the rest of those guys are there.
yeah.
Um,
I mean,
even it,
Ricky Fowler given the winning putt, and he didn't know that was probably the winning putt at the time. Maybe he did. I don't know, but eject that dude into the sun. I mean, I
yeah,
like Ricky. I root for him all the time, and I still will. But my God,
can't be on another Ryder Cup team. Just can't.
no.
I mean, he's gonna have to automatically qualify. You can't pay.
Yeah,
I mean, you can do the hindsight's 2020 thing and say, man, Keegan said he would do anything to be on this team. Maybe we needed him. Maybe we need more guys like
yep.
that.
I agree. I 100%. Yeah,
Man, that was tough. And I agree with you on Tiger. I think offering him back to back is really the only way, and you have to. I'm just thinking that like the pipeline of U.S. captains is just like it's a hole, it's a big hole, especially with Mickelson not being in the equation any longer. I read somewhere where DJ said he'd be interested in being a captain. It's just like, dude, I don't. First of all, I don't know if I could ever envision that, anyways. Um, and we both love DJ, but like also this live thing, I don't know how that's all going to work out down the road. But I just look
yeah,
on the other side of Europe. I mean, God, there's so many guys, even with the live defections, where you see a path for a lot of these guys to be captains. And I
mhm,
just don't see it on the U.S. side at all, unless they kind of retroactively look at guys that might have they that have missed out or they skipped before.
right.
We'll see how that ends up. All right, NBA season is starting next week. It always sneaks up on me because we do the thing where football is like in full go at this point in the year, mid October. We've had 6-7 weeks of football. Golf is kind of coming to an end, so we're pretty much all in on college football, NFL, and then boom, then basketball starting, NBA's starting up. It's always a little bit of a weird feeling, but trying to do something different for this pod compared to the last couple of years when we've done it with Colin, which was we just kind of go through storylines, some of our favorites, bets, sleepers, that kind of thing. Similar to, by the way, YouTube TV has done an outstanding job with NFL, the Sunday Ticket. I mean, with the multi-view options, it's unbelievable. So with that in mind, I thought what would be a great way to sort of hype up certain teams or the upcoming season, then think about it from that perspective. And who are the NBA teams that are the most league pass worthy teams? So if you get the league pass subscription, you have the option to watch every NBA game the whole season. Who would be the teams that you'd want to tune in to see on a night to night basis? I always have this thought or this commitment before the NBA season starts where I'm like I'm gonna go all in and watch as much NBA as I can. I'm gonna be watching the West Coast games when everyone else goes to bed, and some version of that takes place first couple weeks, and then I have a hard time keeping up with the pace because it's just nonstop. Um, I don't know where you're at with that. I know you're a Pistons guy, but it's hard to watch a ton of NBA games besides maybe the national, televised Turner games or an ESPN game on a Friday night because there's just so much to watch from, a night to night basis.
Yeah, it certainly is. So just for anybody interested right now, FanDuel's actually got another promotion. They did it last year. You just opt in, you make a bet of like $5, and they give you the NBA League Pass for free for 3 months. Now you can't wait until like December to opt in because it's got to be done like before the season. But just opt in, make a $5 bet. They give you a code, and you could sign up and just set a reminder in your calendar to cancel it, 1 or 2 days beforehand. But I like it. I like it at the beginning of the season because a lot of guys are playing hard. In general, they're mostly healthy, and you get to see kind of what the teams look like out of the gate, and that's not necessarily a telltale of how they'll be at the end of the season. But I just like it because everybody wants that fresh start. The guys start the season playing hard, and generally offensive numbers are pretty good. Once they get into the game flows. But you're right, there is a lot of games, and I will mostly stick to like the nationally televised games on ESPN and Turner. I do have an app that I do watch the Pistons games on. Just started doing that last season, and now that they got kind of a young core, they're halfway interesting to lose 55 games. So, it's just one of those things. But usually the finish is after my bedtime. So, I just watch the first like 3.5 quarters and go to bed. But there's a lot of, the NBA is cool just because the off season is generally kind of insane. So like at the beginning of the season, you don't watch any of the preseason games. So you're like, oh, this guy plays for this team, and this guy plays here. And I didn't realize this, and or I knew this guy was traded here, so I'm kind of just curious. So it's
Yeah.
fun. I recommend anybody do that. Just get the thing for free for a few months. Just watch these games. The best time to bet NBA is from now until Christmas. After Christmas, until the playoffs, is very, very hit or miss. So this is a good time to be in tune with what's going on. Place a lot, a little, whatever. Place your bets, and once about Christmas gets here, then you kind of get hit or miss efforts and everything like that. And you get load management, and whether guys play hard or not. Sometimes guys won't play the fourth quarter or whatever. So fun time though. It's exciting. Football started for me. Hockey's already started here, so the NBA is just all the better. And watching the greatest athletes in the world, playing these games is always a blast.
Yeah. After we talk about our league pass rankings, we'll talk about some best bets we have for the upcoming season, and maybe I'll ask you about some of the type of things you bet on and what's your NBA betting strategy and how we both attack it and how it differs. But let me ask you about the Pistons real quick. Did their window close on the night of the lottery?
Oh, I could still remember where I was at a bar in the middle of nowhere off of Houghton Lake, Michigan, in a cold, cold day, and we had it on this hole in the wall bar on the TV. And when they pulled the card out as the fifth pick,
Oh,
couple of us just we were kind of belligerent at that time. So it was just like, oh my God. Now they
I
got
think I audibly gasped like, "Oh my God!"
yeah, for have what, and I don't hate it because they had the most or the least amount of wins last season, and that really kind of just says don't tank. You gotta just you gotta
Mhm.
depend on the ping pong balls and everything like that. So if this was like another team, if this is the Houston Rockets or some other team, I would have been like, you guys suck. And the Pistons got awarded the pick, the number one pick a few years ago when they got Cade. And it was like, you know what, it's going to be hard to win it again. Not to say that there's collusion or there's other things going on, but you know, it is what
Yeah.
it is and everything like that. But I mean, they've got a pretty good core and them signing Monty Williams as the head coach, I think he's going to install some better offensive methods and in his playbook that he ran in Phoenix than Dwayne Casey did, and I think he's going to demand more on the defensive end side of the ball, and so they should be a little bit more interesting. I think their over under is like 27 wins this year, and we'll see. I mean, it's just all about whether Cade Cunningham is healthy and he could stay healthy for the season and all that other stuff. So, I don't know if they make the playoffs in the next like 3 years, I'll be happy. But they're mostly like I'm just, they just got the Pistons logo on their chest, so I'm just going to watch them and not really expect much, unfortunately. And you know, it just kind of is what it is at this point with that franchise.
Um, they have like five centers, don't they? They have like Wiseman,
Yeah.
Bagley, Stewart, Bren. I
Yep.
mean, it's
Yeah.
there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
Even if they got Wemby, I don't know if he would have broken through, and gotten the starting spot over those guys. No, I'm just kidding. Um, I do have a little bit of worry about Cade with his injury coming back, and just I hope something like that doesn't linger. I do have thoughts and hopes of him being like a poor man's Luca, which would be a great player. But
Yeah.
I,
Well, what worries me about him is he either went to either pescatarian or he went
uh,
vegetarian or
oh no,
something. He basically gave up meat, and man, that's as much as these guys play, you gotta get those sources of protein. So I mean, he had put on some weight before he had the shin injury, but you're right. He only played what 10 games last year, something like that. So hopefully he needs time with Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren is going to be a good big man. And he's going to catch a lot of alley oops and get a lot of rebounds and whatnot. But they just got to play. They just got to get them on the floor together and see how that works. So that's going to be a big thing is keeping them all on the floor. And I think they'll be fun. I think I'm just hoping. So a couple years ago, I told we've had my cousin Brandon on here a couple times on the podcast. I've told him before, you know what? I just want them to go halfway through the fourth quarter and have a chance in as many games as they can. They're not going to win all these games, and they did a couple years ago. And then last year
no.
was definitely not the case. And I don't know if that was doing Casey just not being overly mentally into it or whatever. I don't want to say necessarily anything bad about him, but it's just one of those things that you got to play a full 48 minutes as a team, and because you're just not good enough to close out these games, and you gotta build that up.
I like how you're protecting Dwayne Casey on the podcast.
I know. Well, he never did anything, say anything bad about me, so I just don't want to say anything bad about him.
I mean, I just rip into my coaches like all the time. Like Matt Eberflus is the worst NFL coach I could ever dream up. But here you are protecting Dwayne Casey a couple years later, so I'm impressed. Yeah, we'll see. See where the Pistons if they can take a step forward here. Which Thompson do they have? Did they draft? I didn't even remember.
Asar.
Okay,
They have
is he the?
Asar, who's the more defensive, all around minded player. Amin was the offensive guy,
That's right. That's
and
right.
Asar is more of the do everything. They really like him on defense. They may bring him off the bench just to kind of so he's because he can play defense and he can handle the ball and he can get to the basket and everything like that. But yeah, they didn't get the offensive guy. His brother was drafted the pick before.
All right, let's get into the rankings here. I'm going to start with, and I don't know if you had any close to your top 10 that you would say were honorable mention. We just my guest last week, Cullen, and I did our top five horror movies, and we certainly did an honorable mention list. So I do have a couple honorable mention teams that didn't quite crack the top 10, but I think will be fun to watch. I don't know if you landed on any of those as well.
Okay.
Okay, so I had the Minnesota Timberwolves as just outside my top 10, and might be a strange selection to some. Um, it's really just for one player, and one player that I think is going to take a massive leap, and we saw it over the summer with I guess it was the World Cup. And Anthony Edwards, I think, is just going to be awesome this year. And I don't know where they are going to land in the landscape of the West this year. Um, but this dude is incredible. He plays basketball like Adrian Peterson used to play football. It's just he's so intense, and he plays hard every possession, and I just appreciate watching him because I just don't see a lot of guys like that. Kind of reminds me of a young Russell Westbrook as well, but
Yes.
I think his ceiling might be higher. Um, and I'm gonna mention a best bet on him later, but outside of him, the T Wolves have a ton of questions. They're still suffering from the Rudy trade, I think. Cat, I think, is on the trade block. He's been on the trade block. I don't know if that's ever going to work with all those guys, but I think Edwards alone can carry them to a playoff berth, and I think he's worth watching.
I
Um,
actually had him. I had them in my top 10. So I actually
okay.
like that for a lot of those same reasons. Anthony Edwards is just he's like a sledgehammer. I mean, G's just going to go all out. I'm going to like him in his points props at the beginning of the year. I'm going to like him in his 3-point props. I think he's just going to handle the ball quite a bit. He's going to put up his shots, and I think he's going to be fun to watch. Um, I think he's a superstar waiting to happen. I think he's on the precipice of that, and it's just a matter of time. And it maybe in Minnesota, maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Just outside my top 10, I had the Cavs as well. I think you know Mitchell gets a lot of the praise, and he can be incredible at times. I really like Darius Garland. I think he's really one of maybe one of the five most underrated players in the league. I think Evan Mobley could be defensive player of the year. I don't know what to make of that team during playoff time in the East, especially with the top two teams we'll talk about at some point, I'm sure. But I think the Cavs are fun watch, and then I have the Spurs on there just for Wemby. Just had to. Just from what I've seen in preseason, it is really it's unlike anything you've ever seen on a basketball court. It's like you feel like he can block any shot no matter where he's at. It's pretty insane. I just can't wait to see it. They're not going to be good, but man, what a building block! And I just can't wait to see where it goes.
I also had the Spurs in my honorable mention because of Wemby, and yeah, I think some of the highlights that we're going to see on NBA TV or on Sports Center, whatever, is going to be just incredible. Like that one dunk that he had, where he was like at like he was still in like the circle and just kind of reached up and dunked it. And then the one guy's reaction, I don't know who it was, but he was in the paint there and just kind of wide-eyed it, couldn't even believe it there. So I do have them in my honorable mention there. And then who else did you mention right before that? Because I had them as well. Jesus, I can't even remember. The Cavs will be fun. The Cavs will be fun. Eastern Conference team. For me, for the league pass stuff, because being a Pistons fan, I've seen plenty of Cavs
Yeah.
games over the past several years. So for me, it's just like whatever. And we league pass you look at the floor, the jerseys, it's just the whole thing. And whenever I see the Cavs on the schedule, it's just like eh. But the team I think is very good. It's just whether, like you said, it's whether they get over that hump. Do they have the guys to lead them to a series victory there? And then the other honorable mention I had was the Dallas Mavericks, just because I'm curious on
Yep.
Luka's the best player on the planet, and then Kyrie's the most talented. So I think that could be interesting. Not sure as Jason Kidd is the coach there, but it'll be interesting because I think they kind of both got to be ball dominant guys. So we'll see how that ends up working out. And it seemed like whenever they had the chance to play together in the very few games, they didn't play much together. So there's a big time intrigue on what that team will be, for this coming season if they can make the playoffs.
Yep. Nope. Good call on that one. Where did you have the T Wolves? Do you rank them 1 to 10?
I did. I had the T Wolves actually as the number 9 team.
Okay.
So they barely cracked the top 10. But like I said, I think that's just Anthony Edwards is just so interesting to me, just to see what he's going to do after how he finished last season off with all scoring and all that other good stuff. And I just think that he's out for blood this year. And I just like you said, I like how he plays. I've always liked how Russ Westbrook has played. He's even terrible Russ the past couple of years. The dude's playing hard. Can't make
Yep.
a jump shot to save his life, but Anthony
Okay.
Edwards
Yep.
can. So, it'll be
Yep.
an interesting thing. And I think Anthony Edwards is going to be good for, like I said, points. I think he's going to be good for his 3-point numbers and then first basket 3-pointers. I think he's gonna check them quick. I think that's the way you're gonna make money off of him.
And one more thing about him, then we'll move on. But he was, they played the Nuggets in the first round last year, and I mean, they kind of, it wasn't close. They won a game, but they played them almost as well as like the Heat did. I mean, and Edwards was he was incredible in that series, even though they got beat 4-1. All right, I'm going to give you my number 10, and I'll hear your number 10. My number 10 is, it could be construed as a homer pick, but I have the Indiana Pacers as the number 10 team in my league pass rankings. And I just think they have a lot of really fun dudes. I love Halliburton. Halliburton is my oldest son's favorite player. He loves Halliburton. He's got a jersey. Um, I think he has the potential to be the best point guard in the league. I think that soon. It's just he can do it all. He'll average over 10 assists with this team. I think he'll probably be a 2010 guy. I just think he's the best young point guard going. They got Obi Toppin in the offseason. I don't know if he's going to start or not, but just kind of imagining
Catching
him
lobs.
yeah, from Halliburton. I mean, that's going to be fun. Miles Turner kind of does his thing as long as he stays out of the lane for these guys. I like the Bruce Brown acquisition. My favorite guy, I mean, Halliburton, Ben Mathurin. That dude is really fun to watch. He's kind of a Dwayne Wade type game. Still learning how to shoot, but man, he gets the bucket. Just from a watchability standpoint, they got a lot of young guys. I think they could kind of break through to become at least a play-in team this year. So that's why I have the Pacers 10, because I just think they're going to score a lot. I don't know if they'll have a lot of resistance as far as defense goes, but I could see them in a lot of high-scoring games with a lot of young dudes. I got the Pacers 10. Who's your 10?
Yeah, actually, you know what? The Pacers were actually 11 for me, so they were on my honorable mention. So I for those reasons as well. My number 10 is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Thought about ranking them higher.
I have them
And
6.
at this point on this podcast, because you have them 6, yeah. I thought about going a little bit higher, but I mean, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren's going to be hopefully healthy this season here. They've got Dort, Jalen Williams. I mean, that's a good nucleus, and they got like 800 draft picks in the next 5 years. So they can not only build the team through the draft, they've got a good young nucleus right now. It's just whether they can maintain and re-sign these guys, when it comes down to it. But Gilgeous-Alexander, he was a favorite of mine in betting his points, because the dude would put up 25 guaranteed a night. It seemed like, I mean, you could easily put him in a parlay, and you're pretty much guaranteed that every single night there. And they've just they're pretty good. And then Josh Giddey, I think, a real good playmaker at the point, real good passer. Sees the floor well, and I think he's a perfect complement, because he doesn't need a lot of shots. He's a true pass first point guard. So number 10 here, but I could easily push them up the board. And I think I will throughout the season.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add. I had them as high as I did because of the reasons you mentioned. SGA is uh, so impressive, and he doesn't even shoot threes. I mean, he scores the ball at will, and it's inside the paint. That 10 to 15 foot jumper, great mid range game. I love Giddy. Kind of has a Jokic type game as far as being a big guy that can handle a lot of the offense runs through him. Um, Chet is going to be fun just to see. I think he's getting kind of overlooked. So yeah, I'm with you. I love the Thunder as a team that I think could push for 45 to 50 wins, and I can see him even maybe competing for like a top four seed in the West. So I can't wait to see this team. I'm going to mention they're in a couple of my best bets later as well. So all right, so you had the Wolves at 9.
Wolves at 9.
So who is your 10 team?
Oklahoma City.
Oh, see, you gotta keep me on
It's getting
on
past your
point here.
bedtime. I know.
I
It's
know.
getting past your
I know.
bedtime.
All right, so my number 9 is Sacramento Kings. Um, Kings broke through last year. Um, really good playoff series with the Warriors. They lost. They got pretty much everyone back. Um, I love Fox. I love Sabonis. Sabonis was a little bit of a disappointment in the playoffs, but I mean, really fun player to watch especially on the offensive end. Again, another team that will not stop a nosebleed whatsoever, but they're going to be in a lot of these 124 to 119 kind of games. Uh, as much as I hated him during college, I think Keegan Murray is going to take a step up this year, be more relevant as well. So a lot like the Thunder, a lot of fun young players, high scoring team. Should be in a lot of entertaining games. So that's why I have the Kings at number 9. 8 for you.
8 for me. I have the Los Angeles Lakers, and it's solely, well, not solely. It's LeBron James. It's just we're at what year 20? Is it 20? 21? Something like that.
It's 20,
Dude,
isn't it?
dude average what 25, 7 and 7 or something like that as like a 39-year-old or something like that. I mean, unreal. And I know we're in the twilight years. We still had a phenomenal season last year, but it's just the Lakers. It's the gold. You see a late game. The floor. It's just awesome. It's just one of those things that's just kind of cool. And I don't know how good they are. They'll make the playoffs, I believe. I think they're in that, hopefully fifth, sixth, hopefully trying to stay out of the play-in games. It depends on Anthony Davis, really. I mean, whether he's healthy or not. But I think LeBron, as long as he stays healthy there, he's got to kind of carry that team there. Austin Reeves, I think, is a budding young player there who's actually, I think, not just like a role player. I think he's actually a legitimately good player who's going to be he was a perfect complement to LeBron down the stretch, and I think he fits that team pretty well there. And then who's their point guard? D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah, and they also got Gabe Vincent in the offseason.
Oh, that's right. They did get
They made
Gabe
some
Vincent.
really, really nice moves, I think. Um, not to hijack what you're saying, but I legitimately thought at the end of the season, I know they made it to Western Conference Finals. I mean, I thought the only team that was better than them was the Nuggets, and they, of course, they got swept, but a lot of those games were close. They were close in the second half, and they lost them all. But I like what they added. Um, Gabe Vincent, Torian Prince is a 3-and-D guy they added. They
Christian
re-signed
Wood.
Christian Woods, good depth guy. They drafted my guy, Jalen Hood-Schifino. But no, they have a lot of depth. They have a lot of depth. I love the Austin Reeves re-signing, and they got him really cheap. Um, so yeah, I think guys like that, Russell, Reeves, Vincent, can take some of that load off of LeBron, so he doesn't have to, slog through a January game playing 42 minutes. And I have them at number 4 on my rankings, so quite a bit higher than you. But um, I really think they're going to be fun to watch because they got a lot of guys that can put up 20 points. I can't wait to see Davis yet again. He's already pulled me in and he fooled me. I don't know if you heard him say this, but he said he wants to play 82 games.
I didn't hear him say that.
How long is that going to last? Like when 10 games into the season when he stumbles and falls and he's slow to get up every time he falls down.
I was gonna
um,
say if you had a who plays more games, if it's Davis or Zion, really, I mean,
that's
you
a
could
good one.
really, but
Yes.
no, I think they have a pretty good team, and it'll be interesting. And it's just, LeBron is generally very polarizing, as
Very.
everybody knows. So, you know, him being on the Lakers when the Lakers are relevant is good stuff.
My number 8 team was the New Orleans Pelicans. Um, I don't know if they made your top 10 at all. But this team for me is, I guess it does come down to Zion. Speaking of Zion, um, I mean, you want to talk about just polarizing for I mean, a player that could be so impactful. He simply just can't stay on the court. Can't even get on the court at times. But man, can you imagine if this team would play if he'd play 65 games? I mean, I don't even know if we know how well um, CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram would work together. I don't even know if there's. I think I saw where they played 10 games together last season.
Yeah.
Um, so but man, when Zion's out there and he's healthy, it is pretty incredible to watch. I think we saw glimpses of it a couple years ago before he really missed a lot of time, and he plays a game unlike anyone else, and he's a great passer. He's a great playmaker for his size. Um, just got to see more. Just got to stay on the court. Trey Murphy is fun. He can, I mean, if you talk about one of the best dunkers in the league from a watchability standpoint, for a league pass standpoint, he's there. So I'm in on this team if they can stay healthy. Um, yeah, I'm sure they did not make your top 10 though.
They did not. I really wish Willie Green, their head coach, he was in my graduating class at the University of Detroit Mercy. So root I root for them, and I want to see Zion succeed because I mean, you want to see elite athletes. You should want to see elite athletes um, you know display their craft, and unfortunately that doesn't work. But I think they've built a pretty solid team, and I think Brandon Ingram is a guy who's kind of can accept over the past couple of years, kind of accept that it's Zion's team, and I think CJ McCollum is just a really good basketball player, like you said there. So it's just, can they, if he's playing, yeah, and we could count on him for 60, 65 games. Yeah, I would definitely be a lot more interested in it. But as of now, you expect he, what the season starts in less than a week, and he's probably going to come up with some ailment where he's going to miss the first 5 games, type of thing, unfortunately.
7. Who do you got?
7, I have the Philadelphia 76ers.
Oh,
Um, I don't think I think they're gonna be okay because they've got Joel Embiid, one of the best centers in the league, reigning MVP. I think Nick Nurse is a great coach. I think
mhm.
Tyrese Maxey is one of those guys that's gonna be, he's ascending to one of the better players in the league. But you've got the big dark cloud of James Harden, and when these guys get pouty and don't want to be there, they will get pouty and they will not be there. And he certainly hasn't. But I think just for the interesting thing of just watching them is just seeing Pat Beverly foul a dude on the inbound after a made basket, and then him, scoring a basket, doing the too small, celebration. Then you got Embiid that's gonna flop, and then how good is the Nick Nurse like surprised face? Like, he has just got the absolute best reaction in the league, and I think all that stuff. I mean, you got just a mismatched group of characters, that I think are going to win a fair amount of games. They're not going to win a ton of games like they have in the past couple of seasons. I don't see them winning 50 games this year. But just that lineup of dudes, even if you throw James Harden in there, because that dude won't give a shit. I mean, he might just he'll just coast and be fat and in his warm up suit and all that stuff and everything like that. So it's just I think they'll be kind of fun just to see that. And I do like watching Joel Embiid play. I think he's I think he plays hard. I think he plays really hard. I think he means well. He's a talker and everything. I think he's a good NBA personality and a plus player that makes it interesting. But the guys they got around him, though, there might be too much too many, I guess, too many distractions. But for that, I think that's why I'm going to tune in to those games and watch.
I do not have them on my top 10. I do want to see. I want to see Maxi. I think he's going to make a jump.
Yeah.
And the Harden thing is, it's just worth monitoring how that's going to play out. It does feel like the Sixers and I guess more specifically Embiid, he's just kind of they're always like the third or fourth best team in the East, and they can never quite get past these obstacles, and you kind of wonder if it's ever going to happen for him while he's in Philly. And is there a time limit in his mind on when that's when is this going to expire where he's got to move on? Um, so yeah, I do not have the Sixers in my top 10. My number 7 is the Golden State Warriors. You could probably have this just as an auto play while Steph is there, while Steve Kerr is coaching this team. Definitely a team in a bit of flux, I think. They're aging for sure. Made a big, change with, offloading Jordan Poole, which obviously they had to. I think there was definitely a chemistry issue there with, especially with Draymond. The acquisition of Chris Paul, I think, is really interesting, and I can't wait to see. I mean, Chris Paul, Steph, and Clay on the court at the same time should be different and could be really devastating. I don't know how they guard teams if all three are on the floor. Clay is not the defensive player he used to be. And also, is Draymond playing 4 or 5 and is Wiggins on the court? Like they could be incredibly small when Chris Paul's out there if they're trying to play all these guys together in crunch time. Um, but it's still infinitely fun to watch the Warriors play basketball, and to watch Steph do what he does because it's like art. It's just like you get out there and you shoot the basketball and you're shooting threes and you see what he does and it just becomes so routine. But I mean, it's the level of difficulty is just pure insanity what he's continuing to do now at 35. So that's why I have Warriors at 7.
I like them. I have them further up in my rankings, so we'll get to them when we get to them. But yeah, those are some. They're the Warriors.
Uh, do 7 for you, or we on to 6?
We did 7, and my number 6 team is the Sacramento Kings.
Okay.
I'd like to watch defense. I mean, if you ask me, I'd like to watch teams that play good defense and try to win games like that and all that other stuff. But this team's fun and the crowd's fun. I think De'Aaron Fox, didn't he break his hand or break a finger or something like that in that Golden State series?
Yeah.
I think I don't know if he missed any time because of it, but I think it affected how he played. But I think he's a dude. I think he's a guy. He is a legit certified dude in this league, and I think that you could win games in the playoffs with him too. It just seems like something clicked, and maybe he was like that before. Where would he play? Where did he play before that?
Fox?
Wasn't he traded? Or no,
I
he
thought
wasn't traded. Never
I
mind.
thought yeah, I
No,
think
he
he's
was
always played
drafted
for
by
the
them.
Kings. Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, Sabonis is just such a interesting all around player. Dude gets a ton of rebounds. Love him on his over rebounds prop like every single night. Like you could really like put him in a
Yeah.
parlay 10 plus rebounds every night. guaranteed, and he's usually going to have 7, 8 assists, and he's a great defender as well. So I think he's a real good fit for that team there. And then, like you said, I like Keegan Murray. Didn't play well most of last season, kind of lost his way, but ended up playing some decent basketball, I believe, down the stretch. Um, Ready to make that year two leap. And then you got Malik Monk, who's good
Yeah.
scorer, and they've got dudes who can put the ball through the hoop there. So like you said, they're going to score a boatload of points. So just you pick when you play your late night parlays there, find the guys and see who's hot, and with the good matchups. And that's something that play their over point total, because they're going to score so much this season.
Yeah. Kevin Herter too. I like him. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they just got a lot of guys, and the pieces seem to fit. 6, I had the Thunder. So we're on to 5, correct?
5. Yep.
My number 5 was the Boston Celtics. Could definitely argue this team could be higher. I have them 5 because, I mean, you could argue and say that their foursome is the best 4 in the league, with Tatum and Brown, coming back again, but now they've added on, and they've got Porzingis, and this last edition of Drew Holiday just a couple weeks ago. I mean, it makes them, I mean, incredibly diverse, and Drew Holiday is one of the best perimeter defenders in the league still, even at his age. I think he's 33. Tatum's going to average 28, 29. Brown's going to probably average in the mid 20s. Porzingis might be the key to see what if he's. I mean, he was really good last year with the Wizards, really, really good. I think he averaged like 23 and 11, and making his threes. He's going to have so many wide open threes, I bet, from the corner. Yeah, I just think this team is so good. I do question the coach, but from just basketball standpoint, they kind of give you everything that you want. They don't have Marcus Smart anymore, but that might be an addition by subtraction thing. I think he had kind of overstayed his welcome. Derek White, I think, is going to be the 5th starter. So I just think the starting 5 might be the best in the league, and this team might win 60 games.
60 games. Wow. I mean, that's
Sam.
is yeah. I also have Boston at 5, not because I think they're going to be the 5th best team in the league, but because just
Yeah.
I think there's just some other teams that are ahead of them that are going to be more fun to tune into. But this team, though, on a night by night basis is fun. I mean, you have Tatum and Brown, and then you add those other guys, and yeah, Marcus Smart he was edgy, and he added a lot, and he kind of added a little bit of an attitude to uh, you know Tatum, who's generally kind of a passive guy. Um, so when the playoffs would come, he'd kind of be that guy. But he was oftentimes taking a lot of shots that he didn't need to take. When you got 2 of the best players in the league, on the floor with you there, you got to kind of do that. And Drew Holiday, I think, is a great addition, because it'll take the pressure off of Tatum running the point forward, or Jaylen Brown running uh, um, the point guard there. And it's a real good team. Like you said, the coaching, I think, at this point is in question with Joe Mazzulla, and really depth wise, I don't know what they've got beyond those 5 guys there. So may have to log a lot of minutes. The good thing about what the Celtics have done in the past couple of years is usually it's Tatum having pouring in 35 or 40 points one night, and then the next night it'll be Jaylen Brown with 35, and Tatum will he'll score 20 to 25 or something like that. So they kind of are able to take their turns as far as having those elite nights, and that's what also makes them. Since it is a betting show, we got to talk about that. That's what makes them really tough to bet, because when you think Jaylen Brown's going to go off, it's Jason Tatum going 5 of 9 from 3 and putting in 45 points, and then then you bet Jason Tatum to have a big night, and then he goes 1 of 8 and has 22 points or something like that. So it's just that's a tough one there. But as far as like watching them and everything, it's very interesting. I mean, I love the Celtic green, the parquet floor. I mean, it's
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
it's some good stuff, and the crowds usually get into it pretty good. That Boston crowd does. So as long as they got a decent opponent in there, they're generally pretty fun to watch.
Yep. My number four was the Lakers. I already mentioned that. Who is your number four?
Number four is the Denver Nuggets,
Oh,
and
oh, disrespectful.
I, I, I still, this is actually better. I will say this is a lot better than I probably would have had him before they won the championship. I will apologize to Nikola Jokic and say I was kind of unfamiliar with how unreal your game was until watching the Western Conference Finals and then the finals.
Mhm.
Like, just games rarely are on in my awake windows, and just don't watch many of his games. And the guy just puts dudes in a blender. I mean, he gets the ball at the top of the key, and you can't guard him. I mean, it's a guarantee point. He's either going to pass it to somebody on the block that's cutting, or he's going to hit a fadeaway, or he's going to drive in his fat little self in there and use his body to shield off the defender, and he's going to score. It's just I can see now after watching the finals there. I had always questioned on why he was winning those MVPs.
Mhm.
He was
Yeah.
unbelievable in the finals, and I guess I didn't realize that. So with that being
Third,
said,
he
I
had a
mean,
30-20-10 game in the NBA Finals. I mean, that's insane.
what do you say? A 30, 20, and 10 in the finals. This isn't like
Yeah.
this isn't like Thursday night, in Phoenix or something like that. I mean, this is unbelievable, and
Against
I think
against
he is
against
worth the price of admission.
one of the best defensive centers in the league, and Bam Adebayo. I mean, he put up 30, 20,
Yeah,
10. I mean,
I,
it was absurd. It's absurd. Yeah.
yeah. But it's just I probably should rank them even higher, but I just, it's just because the fact that I don't watch many of the games because they're just not available, and but I think they definitely are going to be pretty good as long as Jamal Murray's still healthy. And I didn't realize he's only 25 years old and he's missed a couple seasons and he's that good.
And
Now they
he's so
lost
good.
Bruce.
So good.
He is good. They lost Bruce Brown, who got paid in Indy.
Yeah.
And I think he did a lot, but I think they're going to be able to piece together. And as long as you've got Jokic and Murray, I mean that's a pretty good combination right there.
Yeah. I mean, I think Murray's one of the three best scoring guards going right now. I mean, sometimes he gets so hot where he'll put up 35, 40, and Jokic doesn't have to score that much. Michael Porter's sort of the perfect guy for this team. Perfect boomer bust. He could go off and make 8 threes. He might disappear at times. Aaron Gordon fits in perfectly. Yeah, the pieces fit. They're just again, they're kind of like the Warriors to me. I just love watching them play basketball from an offensive standpoint. Just the way the offense flows through Jokic, and it's so non-traditional, and but it just man, the two-man game with him and Murray just works so well, and they're just it's almost unstoppable. I have them at number two. Um, just again for all the reasons we just said. I just love watching them play. Can't wait to see them play in big games. Like when they play the Lakers or the Suns, the Celtics, whoever. So I want to see those games. But Nuggets are pretty high on my list. So we're at three. My number three was Phoenix. Um, I have a lot of questions about Phoenix as far as what they're going to be with, dealing DeAndre Ayton. Not that he was sort of the linchpin of this team, but um, I do question how they're going to stop guys. I guess that's sort of the theme of a lot of the league pass teams here. um, but gosh, I think they're just going to try let's see how many points we can score between our top three dudes with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, now Bradley Beal, and just see how it works out. But um, I love Booker. I think Booker's like just he's got something in him that's like he's got like a fuck you in him that I don't feel like maybe like a Jason Tatum has, and then he goes and proves it. Um, so I think Booker has a chance of having an MVP type season if he can stay healthy, stay on the court. He's so efficient from mid range. It'd be interesting to see how the ball is shared with Beal being added because Beal hasn't always been the most unselfish guy. Um, Another guy that's missed a lot of games, but man, that series with the Suns and Nuggets last year, and I think it was the Western semis, and just what Booker and Durant were doing. I mean, every game. I mean, putting up. I think that there was a game where they both put up 40. I mean, uh, I don't know. It's going to be really fun to watch. There's a ton of questions around them, and I really don't know the long term viability with them in the playoffs. But regular season should be fun. So I have this.
Three for me was also the Suns.
Okay.
And I am very, very curious to see. I hope like hell KD can be healthy all season long. We just 35 years old, and we've only got a couple more years here. And one of the greatest scorers of all time. I'm just hoping, and I think Book is going to be one of the. He's just going to be kind of your mainstay, going to get you, whatever his numbers are every single night there, and his consistency. And I think there is some unselfish play with him as well. Um, it'll be interesting to see without Chris Paul running the offense, kind of to see how they go with that. I think Chris Paul, for any faults or whatever, damn good point guard. I mean, the guy could run the offense, and he was the main cog, I think, that revitalized that team years ago and made them, they were supposed to lose a bunch of games and made them kind of relevant there. So, and then, yeah, you're right. Bradley Beal, what are we going to get from him? Is he going to be a guy who's okay being the third option? You know, I, I have a feeling, I have a feeling he will. I have a feeling he will. I don't think he really wanted to go necessarily get traded from Washington. And I think he was just kind of content. And I think looking just a prediction here. He was not going to be overly concerned with getting his numbers every single night there, like KD is going to look at getting, and Booker's going to get just because of how he is there. So it'll be interesting to see how those three guys, and then you're going to probably have, I think Eric Gordon still plays there. He'll be playing a lot down the stretch. Can those guys play any defense as well? With whatever fifth guy you throw in there. So it'll be, I think it'll be a fun team to watch. And I think the Suns has always been a cool logo, the basketball court, the jerseys. They got some of the old school jersey that they're going to throw out there. The one that, Charles Barkley wore when they made the finals there. So I think it'll be kind of cool. It'll just be how they're going to sort it out with the new head coach and to see where they're going to go at with that. But they got the young owner Matt Ishbia, the Michigan State grad, who has endless money and is uber competitive because he wanted to fight the Joker in the playoffs there. So he's good. I think he's an ultra competitive guy, and he'll do things to make that team better, whether it's a trade acquisition or whatever. I think he's definitely committed to making that team good. So I think they're going to be pretty relevant, pretty fun to watch. And KD, please stay healthy.
Got a lot of miles on him too, uh, and a lot of major injuries in his history. So
Yep.
yeah, it's getting up there too. Um, all right, my number two was the Denver Nuggets, of course. Your number two is
The Milwaukee Bucks.
yeah.
Thought about making them number one. They could, they're one or two. I think it's just because there's some bias because they're an Eastern Conference team, and I hate the floor. I hate their multicolored basketball court. I just don't like it there. But Giannis is, I think, going to be just insane this year. They acquired Damian Lillard, and I think him and Dame are going to be just phenomenal together. I just hope they're both healthy to see how this plays out. Then you get Chris Middleton, who's the perfect number three complement who can do a lot of stuff there. But
Mhm.
Giannis is gonna be on FU mode, I think, this season. I think he was on Instagram. He was tagging people that he was dunking on. I think he's kind of, he was that. He's always been that likable, guy with the big smile and all that stuff, real personable guy. I think he still is, but I think there's going to be a mean streak to him. And I think there has been ever since they won that NBA championship. So, I think he's ready to be recommitted. Mike Budenholzer is no longer the coach. The guy who always looked like he was sweating a bet. He always looked like he had that quarter zip that he had kind of rolled up to his under his elbows there, and just always looked concerned, like he was going to lose he had a big bet going on there, and he was watching the game and wasn't sure, like sitting in Vegas like that. That's just always what he reminded me of. But the number two team, I think they might be the best team in the league, though. I think with that 1-2 combination with Damian Lillard. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they look.
Yeah, they're my number one team. They are. I mean, they've been a mainstay the last 4 or 5 seasons in the East. They won the title a couple years ago, but there was definitely a sense that they had maybe gone as far as they could with this team, especially after being upset by the Heat in the 1-8 series last year, and you knew that something was going to happen. Nothing did happen for most of the offseason except Budenholzer being replaced. But man, that Lillard trade really came out of nowhere, and you can always say like, man, I don't know if scoring was the problem. They're going to be worse on defense. I get all that, but man, this might be. I mean, this is just the most fun 1-2 punch in the league now, and they play a game that you think would fit incredibly well together. If you picture Lillard coming off Giannis screen and rolls and what they can do there, Giannis how he grabs a board and he just pushes the pace. I mean, about how many potential trailing threes that Lillard is going to have this season with that secondary break. I just think it's going to be incredible to watch. I hope both those guys stay healthy, and I'm rooting for Lillard. I like him. I think he's a good dude, and a little bit in the shadow of Steph, but an incredible shooter and scorer in his own right. And see if he can get one. Should be fun to watch. So by my calculations, your number one team is the Golden State Warriors.
Golden State Warriors still,
Wow, that's a
still the
bit of
Golden
it's a
State
bit of an
Warriors.
upset to me.
Yeah, you know what? I kept thinking about it, and I was like, who gets me excited if I'm turning on ESPN on a Friday night? It's like what's going to excite me is game in San Francisco with Steph, with Clay, with Draymond, and I think it's just fun. I think Steph's incredibly fun to watch. Um, and he I like the way I like the type of basketball that he plays. I don't know what Draymond's got left in him, but you just never know with him. I mean, he feels he's overmatched. He'll start to kind of chirp and get into, try to get into the referee's head or get into somebody else's head, and it's just, you know it's just an interesting team that we've seen, so this the core that we've seen for so many years, and it's just still my number one league pass uh interest is to tune into those guys. Now, are they going to win 50 games? I really don't think they're going to win 50 games, but I think they'll win a lot of games just because of those and Steve Kerr. I think Steve Kerr's, obviously one of the more elite coaches, but it's just fun basketball. And I just kind of like that up and down. And it's just, you look at teams that we've talked about, like Sacramento and Phoenix, where you're like, well, do they really play defense? Not sure if Draymond's got much left in the tank, but him and Clay kind of, they try, and Kayvon Looney, I think, is a solid kind of defender. So they can, they can do some things. And Andrew Wiggins, you remember a few years ago, you and I were talking about him when he was playing for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and we were like, that guy is hot garbage. I mean, he's just never going to amount to be anything, and it's turned out to be a pretty dependable, pretty good basketball player,
Yeah.
and is modeling a nice little career there. So, still going to go with the Golden State Warriors as my number one, and I'm looking forward to the first Friday night weekend I have off of tuning in and watching Steph go off for 40 with like 10 threes.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. I'm a little surprised you had him at one. I mean, I definitely respect it. I mean, I had him at seven. I again still enjoy watching him, but I didn't. There's obviously a bit of a gap there, but all these, a lot of these teams, it feels like you could throw a blanket over with how close it could be. You think about the top two or three in the West, top two or three in the East, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. Um, I know we've went a little long here, maybe rapid fire. Um, we both got 4 or 5 best bets on the season, so we don't have to go into too much. But what's a couple? Are you looking at player props? Are you looking at over under wins or division winners? What do you got?
Well, I looked today. I haven't really looked much prior to this. I do like a lot of team win totals. I actually I wrote down 6 of them. So just real quick. I like the Phoenix Suns over 51 and a half wins. The Cleveland Cavs under 51 and a half. Philly under 48 and a half. Minnesota over 44 and a half. OKC over 44 and a half. And that's kind of a nuke bet for me. And
Love that one.
then
Yeah,
the Atlanta Hawks over 42 and a half. I think they're going to be pretty good. We didn't talk about them, but I think they're ready to take the next step.
I really like.
So
I like the Thunder and the Hawks quite a bit there. Yeah. Um, and you recall last year, Colin, and I, we loved the Nuggets. You remember how much we
love the
loved the Nuggets?
Nuggets.
And so I do feel like we were right on there. We loved the Raptors as well. That did not pan out great.
They're going to be bad. I like the Raptors under this year. They're
Yeah,
going to be bad.
yeah, yeah. Well, this is fascinating because this sort of shows how you look at your bets and then how I look at my bets because I have I have much longer odds than you do, but I'll go with the shortest. I have Chet as rookie of the year at plus 320. Of course, there's so much hoopla around Wemby, but Chet's now, I know he hasn't played much, but he's been in the league. He's, been around these guys, and a lot of his game is similar. And I think the Thunder, like I said, I think they're going to be good. And I think that's going to play into Chet having a great chance at plus 320. I've already bet it. So I love him for that number. I guess I'm on the Thunder train because I'm gonna bet SGA Shea Gilgeous Alexander for MVP at plus 1900. It's a bit of a long
Ooh,
shot,
I
but
like it.
if you've envisioned, say, the Thunder going like I don't know, winning 52 games and getting the 4 seed, like I think he's going to be a guy that's going to average 28 to 30 points for this team, and I just think it's a good number. 2 more MVP pets. Again, I mentioned Booker. I still like him as well. Plus 2,000. The Suns are going to be good. They're going to win a lot of games. Booker's going to be the best player on that team. Here's the one that you'll probably laugh at. And I'll probably laugh at in a couple months after he misses half the season because of a shoulder or a knee. But, I keep getting pulled in. It's Anthony Davis at 40 to 1. And I know, Jesus Christ. The Lakers are going to be good. You mentioned you hope they're not going to be in the play in all that. I think they're going to be good. I mean, they have regular season viability to me. I think they're going to be a top 3 seed. I think there's a chance they could be the one. Um, if if Davis can just stay healthy, we saw what he could be in the Western Conference Finals. He had a couple 30-20 games himself, and he's just a menace defensively when he's out there.
Hmm.
So yeah, this is a long shot. It might be his last best chance to win an MVP because now I think he's what is he 30, and obviously he's getting a lot of wear on him, and it's just going to be harder and harder to win. So Anthony Davis at 40 to 1. This one I almost feel like it's just mispriced. I actually had to double check and saying this is my last one, and we already talked about him a ton earlier. We both love him. Anthony Edwards as the most improved player. That's going off at 40 to 1, and I was trying to figure out why. Um, the favorite was Tyrese Maxey at 10 to 1, but you see this a lot where a guy he has not made an All Star team. Um, no, he did. I'm sorry, he did make one All Star team. Has not made an All NBA team. That's what I was thinking. I just think if he makes like a first team All NBA, second team All NBA next year, like I think he could be most improved. He's only 22 years old. I just think 40 to 1, like why not? Like why not put $5 on it?
I think it's worth a flyer at least. Yeah, but I mean, I think everybody, I think you're going to judge him based on him maybe being a plus player.
But
Um,
John Morant won this award a couple years ago, and we already
he
thought he
did.
was a plus player.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, because I wrote down a couple names for most improved, but it's like, what is the qualification for it?
Right.
It's like, is it you got to be an all-star or is it something like that? So yeah, you're right. John Morant took that leap, and Anthony Edwards. That's actually not too bad of a not too bad of an idea there. I don't
What
know.
if he goes and torches the first month of the season? I mean, he could
Yeah,
be the live favorite after a month.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I just again, that's a weird category as we mentioned. There's you don't really know what the criteria is, but just number base. So that's my last one. So we have some over unders you can go with you or some longer plays on player props. Gonna be fun to watch it play out. We really don't do a lot of NBA talk after it starts, so maybe we should do something mid-season after the Christmas games and see where we're at and see how this is all playing out because I think it's gonna be really fascinating to see how some of these offseason acquisitions play out and especially for the contenders and we can see how your Pistons are doing, um, see if they're pushing in the right direction or they're just going to be in this malaise after the lottery. Hopefully not.
I'll be
Um,
watching them though. We'll see.
we'll see. Thanks for getting through the league pass rankings. I know it's a little different, so appreciate it as always.
That was fun. That was fun. Yeah. Hopefully, well, I'm ready for a good NBA season. I'm really excited for next week.
Absolutely. All right, your best bets. Catch us on YouTube. Um, uh, Golf season is obviously winding down, so now we'll just be throwing out some different shows the rest of the way. So appreciate you listening, and we'll catch you next time.